Hey there. Hey, question. Could I interest you? Could I interest you in a portal, Zach?
Yes.
It's portal time.
Portal season, baby.
We're talking so much portal in the weeks to come. It's going to be all over the place, as it always is. He's Zach Blackerby. I'm Brad Law. This is Village Vice. And the transfer portal opens Tuesday for football. Basketball's hot and heavy. I mean, this is what a time. What a time.
What a time. And look, I mean, I think Hugh Freeze kind of set the tone immediately after A-Day, saying we need more defensive linemen and more wide receivers. And so as of today, before the portal even officially opens, Auburn is hosting an official visit with Philip Blitty, 6'3", almost 300-pound defensive lineman. He's probably a 3 technique. So you think about bringing in a guy to potentially start over Gage Keys and Malik blocked into that 3 technique next to Jason Jones and or Trill Carter.
Yeah.
And Indiana played in all of Indiana's games last year. I believe he played in all 13 games for Indiana last year. Then he played in over 30 games when he was at Texas Tech previous to that. So this is a dude who has played a ton of college football, over 40 games worth of experience.
Yeah.
That's rare. That's valuable. And he's been decently productive. I think his style of play as that type of defensive tackle, it's not a super glamorous position, but he's done a decent job at it. Last year, according to Pro Football Focus, he was the 3rd highest ranked defender among all of Indiana's defensive players. So Philip Blitty, it's an interesting type of recruitment, Brad, because you got to think, okay, this is a guy who's already been through the transfer portal process once. And then the other side of this is, I believe it was in 2021, he got married. This guy has 2 kids. This guy has a family.
Yeah.
So this is a pure business decision. He's already visited LSU. I believe he's already visited Washington, if not he's going to. This is a guy who's got some, he's getting attention from top programs throughout all of college football, and he's at Auburn right now.
He is from Trenton, New Jersey. On his Indiana profile, his high school almost looks like it's a New Mexico high school. So he's a guy that's been around to different places.
Yeah,
it's really interesting. He's got excellent size, 6'3", 295, 300 in that range. You come to Auburn, the pitch now to come to Auburn and be a part of the defensive line is not only playing time, but it's kind of the normal things too. It's SEC. It's you're playing against the best of the best, in the best of the best atmospheres, in the biggest games, the most watched games, an opportunity. If you're going to play beyond college, your platform is going to be unlike any other opportunity. And I've got to think that at any other sort of, I've got to think that Auburn offers the best opportunity for playing time among the upper echelon programs in college football at his position.
Yeah, and I'm not going to act like I know everything about LSU's roster, but I do think they're replacing a lot of guys at a bunch of different levels. And so is that the same type of pitch? He said something interesting to some of the reporters after his LSU visit. I'm paraphrasing here, but he told On3 this. It's on On3's quote. But the paraphrasing is the gist of, hey, I want to win a championship. LSU's a place that I can do that. I want to win a national championship. I want to win a conference championship. I want to go to a place that allows me to do that. Well, the other places that he's visited or talked about visiting, Washington, they're not going to win the Big Ten this year.
No.
Auburn, I don't think they're going to win the SEC this year. Crossing my fingers. Hope they do. That path is tough. They need a lot of things to go their way. Texas A&M is another school that I think he's kind of flirting with visiting. I think they're in a worse situation than Auburn is. And so when you just kind of lump all of these different things together, I think it's one of 2 things. Either like, sure, everybody wants to win a championship, but you entered the portal for a reason. And was it a championship? Because like you went to Indiana. You chose Indiana at some point. Like, was a championship? Yeah. Like, was a championship on your mind then? Or is that just what you say because you can't come out and say, yes, this is a business decision. I need to make as much money as possible for my family. And he's not going to say that. And so I don't really know how to read all of that. We're kind of given little bits of clues here and there.
Yeah.
But I think Auburn, I think Hugh Freeze is going to make defensive line a priority in this portal window. We've seen what this coaching staff can do when they make certain position groups a priority. We saw it at first with the offensive line, and boy, I mean, just from a culture standpoint, the status and depth of the offensive line now versus where Hugh Freeze was when he got here, it's insanely different. It's night and day different. Even the guys that were already on the roster when he showed up, they seem different. Looking at guys like Jeremiah Wright, it's like they seem different. And hats off to offensive line coach Jake Thornton for kind of leading that charge. Then the next position group was wide receiver. You need more bodies in the wide receiver room, but boy, it seems and feels different than it did a year ago. A lot of youth, a lot of talent, a lot more explosiveness there. I think defensive line is next, Brad. And so is Philip Bliddy a guy that does that? There's a guy at Louisville that's entering the portal, supposedly. His last name's Lowell, I believe, and he seems solid. I think Bliddy's a little bit better, but there's going to be plenty of guys that enter the portal on this defensive line, and these guys are going to make a lot of money at their new school because that's the market right now. That's the market. And so you saw them start this when they went out and got Trill Carter and Gage Keys in December. That's not enough. I bet they have 3 or 4 more guys on the defensive front.
3 or 4 more on the defensive line. That's hefty.
I'm counting all of it. I'm counting all 4 of those spots. I'm counting the Buck linebacker.
Okay.
I'm talking about strong side defensive end and those 2 interior spots. I think they're going to have to, Brad. They need so much more pop there if they want to compete in 2024.
Remind folks again what it looks like on the inside and kind of what your projection of the depth chart looks like before anybody else comes in, because you mentioned Bliddy, if he were to come play in one of the tackle spots. What do you see as the depth behind Jason Jones? Kind of give us the lay of the land and the personnel, specifically the interior of the D-line.
Yeah, your traditional nose tackle, it seems like it's Jason Jones at that number 1 spot. And then after that, Trill Carter appears to be his backup. Of course, that's the transfer from Texas. And then Gage Keys started there most of the spring at the 3 technique, that other interior defensive line spot. And we saw Malik Blockton rotate in there a good bit, even with the 1s at 8A, which kind of lines up with what we've heard and seen a little bit throughout spring. So we'll see. But I think if Bliddy were to come here, I think he starts over Gage Keys. I think he's better than Gage Keys, at least what we've seen on tape and what the analytics say. But obviously, Gage Keys went through spring, and that's certainly going to help him if that position battle were to happen. But don't you just think if they're pitching to guys coming in, especially guys that right now, before the portal officially opens, when we don't fully know the full list of guys that are going to be available for teams to pursue, you've got to think that, one, these offers are going to be competitive if they want them here, because I think there's a strategy of being aggressive early so they don't take visits elsewhere. But also, if they're transferring, especially a guy like this who's out of eligibility, this is it. You got to kind of promise something, right? Don't you have to promise something a little bit more than money, more than NIL deals? You got to promise you're going to have the opportunity to make an impact. Well, I want to start. Okay. You've got a great chance to start. And to me, it's like, if that happens, how does that impact Gage Keys? How does it impact Malik Blockton? I don't know, but that's part of this is why I would never want to be a college head coach right now.
Yeah. Well, we've talked before too, that you can't, there are very few guys out there you would promise a starting job, guys who are looking to move in the spring portal window, that you guarantee. You have to say you'll have every opportunity to start. But I think you also
I don't know if I entirely agree with that. That may be the way Auburn handles it. That may be the way Hugh Freeze says it, because he knows how talented these younger guys are, and you don't want to rock the locker room. But there will be folks that they're competing against in certain positions that value guys so much where they say, yes, you are the starter to start fall camp and to start the season despite not being here this spring. There will be guys that they are recruiting against that do that sales pitch.
Yeah. Well, you may be right. Yeah, you may. That just seems to me like it's a big risk. It's a roll of the dice to promise that. You can always change it a game or two into the season too. And you can always go with the pitch that it's not about simply who starts. If you say we want to rotate 3 different guys at your position over the course of the game, you may start, he's going to come in on 3rd down, or he may start, but you're the 3rd down guy. If we get inside the red zone, you're the guy, or we're going to load up, especially in the interior of the defensive line. So 3 to 4. All right, we'll watch that. I don't think when you include the buck, when you include the end, I don't think that's too much to chew on. I think that's probably right for the portal season.
I think so. And I also think they need to be a little strategic with the age of the guys that they go out and get, because you look at the defensive line. This is just interior guys. This does not count strong side ends or bucks. but you're looking at 4 seniors that are gone after this year: Gage Keys, Trill Carter, Jason Jones, Zacchaeus Walker. And, Zacchaeus may transfer. Who knows?
Yeah.
And then your freshmen are Darren Reed, of course, a redshirt freshman, Malik Blockton, and TJ Lindsey. Then the only other guy in that room is Bobby Jamison Travis, the former JUCO player. What are you going to do after this season? Are you going to get another batch of freshmen and just start a bunch of true sophomores, a redshirt sophomore and true freshmen next year? Or do you go to the portal and say, hey, look, you may not start this year, but you're going to play if you're talking to a redshirt sophomore, maybe a true junior?
Yeah.
And you say, look, you're going to be a rotation piece, but like, we're going to need you in 2025. And oh, by the way, that's when we expect to be a lot better, is in 2025. I would not be shocked to see that at several positions, including defensive line.
Right. Nope. That makes absolute sense, because I get the sense that this coaching staff wants to grow the program with a small percentage of transfers and a very high percentage of the high school recruits and build it up. And that's consistent with what we've said for the last year, that total numbers have to be high the first couple of years. And then as the recruiting base builds and as the talent from the recruiting classes builds, then there's a corresponding diminishing in what you need from the portal. So yeah, it wouldn't shock me to look for a guy sort of like Blitty coming in, who's got experience somewhere else, multiple years of experience somewhere else, to be a depth piece. And, just know if it all goes like you want it to go, according to plan, you don't need a guy to play 60 snaps a game on the defensive line from the portal.
Yeah. And that'll be appealing to some, and that'll be, something that some people want. They want to play 60 snaps a game. It just, it's the same. We've talked about this before with guys potentially transferring in or out. Everybody's priorities and what they want is different. And so this is such a different kind of way to talk about talent acquisition than it is recruiting. It's not the same thing, which is good. I love the portal. I think it allows you to do so much more. I think it makes this sport more exciting. I know some people hate it, and I understand why you hate it. Me personally, I love it. And speaking of things I love, Brad.
Yes.
I love looking at you, but I love looking at you even more today, because what kind of shirt is that? Because it looks fantastic.
This, Zach, is a Roback shirt. Roback, I'm telling you, I may not wear a bunch of other stuff than Roback here in the near future. I got a load of new stuff from Roback, and man, they don't miss when it comes to quality. I love their gear. We absolutely love Roback. Their performance polos are the best polos out there. Cannot find a better looking, better fitting performance polo. Even if you're not really a polo guy, you'll love Roback polos. And they have, this is kind of your standard, just horizontal print. They have some incredible prints that are just in time for spring that you want to check those out. I'll tell you what else I love, Zach, is the hoodie. I wish the only thing that could make me wish the weather is getting colder instead of warmer is the Roback performance hoodie. These things are soft. They're comfortable. You're going to want to try them for yourself. And because you watch Village Vice, you can use promo code VICE20, 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 when you go to roback.com. That's RHOBACK, roback.com. 20% off all polos, hoodies, quarter zips with the code VICE20. Make sure you check out the print polos as well. They're going to have you feeling good all year round.
I love it. I love it. And I love looking at you. So as far as other names to watch, there's a lot of smoke tying Auburn to USC defensive back Traquan Fagans.
Interesting.
And so this is a guy who's from Alabaster, Alabama. He went to Alabama, transferred to USC, and now there's a lot of smoke that in a report saying that he plans on entering the portal once he's able to, which will be tomorrow, Tuesday.
He started out at, I think he started out in my home county, back in Calhoun County. I think he started out at Oxford as an Oxford Yellow Jacket and then transferred to Thompson for his senior year of high school. And then went to Alabama from there, which that's, hey.
Yeah. And you may say like Fagans. That sounds familiar. Yes. His brother is Anquan Fagans, the 4-star talented defender that Auburn is competing with USC and Alabama for. And all of a sudden, I don't think these things are happening by accident. I don't think it's just a happy coincidence that Traquan Fagans is entering the portal and Auburn appears to be a favorite if that were to happen. and his brother trending towards Auburn on the recruiting trail. I don't think those two things are unrelated, Brad.
Yeah.
And obviously that just adds more depth, both this year and over the following seasons. If that were the case, Traquan Fagans, the current USC defensive back, probably projects to be a nickel at Auburn or for any SEC program. And, I think Auburn feels good about who's at corner. I think they feel good about who's at safety. Yeah. There is a little question of like who backs up Champ Anthony if Champ Anthony is the starting nickel. And to me, I think Traquan Fagans would add a lot of depth to that room. And it obviously would help Auburn's footing with getting his brother, which would help make this 2025 recruiting class even better. So
I think that's important context too, because like last week, we went on and on about how deep the secondary is. This isn't an immediate 2024 need-based conversation. There are a couple of different layers, and I think the context you provided is important.
Yeah. Yeah. And so obviously Auburn would be happy with two talented guys that happen to have a similar last name at similar positions. You take those. You take those. So Traquan Fagans is a guy definitely to track over the next few weeks. I'm expecting wide receivers to enter like crazy tomorrow too, just because there's so many of them and it's so simple to see like guys not get enough targets in so many different offenses. And just to see how aggressive Auburn is with wide receivers early in the portal. Because to me, one, I think it depends on which wide receivers leave Auburn, which there are several you can make the argument is like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But to me, I think defensive line is vastly more important because I think you can kind of deal with some of the lack of wide receiver depth with either playing guys a year too early, just because you believe so much in these freshman wide receivers, even the guys who aren't on campus yet.
Yeah.
Two, like I really like the receiving threat and ability of these tight ends. So like maybe you play more 2 tight end sets, but you actually play them at wide receiver. We saw Rivaldo Fairweather do that some last year. Do you slot him out? Rico Walker, the transfer tight end from Maryland, I'm really high on. And then obviously Micah Riley. I think he's kind of proven that he can be that dude too. So I think you can cover up the depth in other ways.
Yeah.
Brad, you can't fake depth on the defensive line. I think you can fake depth at wide receiver if you have to.
I think it's more physical on the interior of the defensive line. You need more freshness, more bodies there overall than you need. And, you got 11 guys chasing a ball as opposed to one ball on offense going to one of a handful of guys. And I'm in agreement with you. I also think that, all right, this is a little bit of a generalization, but give me some rope. Your receivers that are going somewhere in the spring portal period, it's a different crop than those who come out in the earlier portal period because they've gone through spring and they've said, all right, well, I don't know that I love the role I'm going to play, but let me see how it goes in the spring. I just don't know that the inventory available is as strong as it is in that first portal period.
No, but you almost need it more. You almost have more leverage as a guy in the portal because it's like, okay, well, what if somebody leaves and it's like, okay, well, this school's calling me and they may not have any other options that are the same tier as me if I'm in the portal. So
true.
You're right. I don't think the talent's going to be there as much, but the urgency is on the team side.
There's not a number one receiver. In all likelihood, not a number one receiver. There's not a receiver going to go into the portal that you think is going to be better than Cam Coleman. That's not the question.
Or Robert Lewis.
Right. Is there another Robert Lewis that goes into the portal in the spring?
I hope so. Period? And I hope Auburn gets him if he does. But probably not, right? Like any of the guys that Auburn brings in, and I think there's some eligibility talk too with this. It's like if Auburn were able to get another Caleb Burton, a guy who was proven, but it didn't work out at his first stop. Like, does that make sense for the future of the program? Yes. And I think those are the type of signings I actually get more excited about, like Dylan Cinda last year from Northwestern, who obviously didn't play much last year, probably not going to play much this year, but will be a competitor to start next year. And I mean, it's almost like getting high school guys, more proven high school guys at that point. So we'll see. And, every signing is going to be a little different. And that's what I think. Once again, I love the transfer portal. I love what it's done as far as the off season for college football. It's also impacting college basketball, Brad. And Auburn seems to be really targeting a basketball standout in the portal. We'll discuss him in just a moment. Right here on Village Vice. Got to tell you about our friends at mybookie.ag. And MyBookie can be your bookie. By going to mybookie.ag, use promo code NEXTROUND. You'll get some extra money to bet with a little bonus bets action. You can't lose. You can't lose when you go to mybookie.ag and use our promo code. It lets us know, or lets them know that we sent you, and they give you some extra money on the house. Bet on anything from NBA, which I guess the playoffs are starting now, which is very exciting if you care about that sort of thing. The NHL, I think the playoffs are starting there too, if that excites you. Then obviously the MLB is picking up. If you know a pitcher, just go ahead and tell them that you love them because they are dropping like flies and it's devastating. But head over to our friends at mybookie.ag, use promo code NEXTROUND. So last week, have we done a show since Auburn added JP Pegues? I don't know if we have.
In fact, he made the announcement official about 10 minutes after we finished the last show that we posted before today.
That's right. Of course you did. Of course you did.
Just a monstrous edition. Exactly what you're looking for. And I think he breaks the mold of some of the point guards that we've seen on a Bruce Pearl team recently. Now, he's got the size.
In what way? How does he break it?
All right, here's what I think. We have gotten really used to nobody playing more than about 24 minutes a game.
Sure.
I think it's the biggest thing that changes with JP Pegues. I think he plays 30-plus minutes regularly. It's what he did at Furman. He averaged 34 minutes a game this past season at Furman. The year before, he was 32 minutes a game. So every year that he's been the starter, he's 32 minutes plus per game. Different level of competition consistently in the SEC, but I think you can do that. I think you can play 30, 31, 32 minutes a game. We see plenty of guys do it. So I think that changes what you look for in a secondary option at the point guard position, because you've lost both Aiden Holloway and Trey Donaldson. Now with Pegues coming in officially, does Tahad Pettiford play a little bit of point guard? He can play a little. Does Denver play a little bit of point guard? Do you go get somebody else in the portal who can play a little bit of point guard? You don't need now 18 minutes a game from one player at that position because you have Pegues.
Yeah. And then another guy that, according to a few reports, it seems like Auburn is interested in, former Clemson forward RJ Godfrey. Since he's entered the portal, according to reports, he's heard from Auburn, LSU, Georgia, Oklahoma, Butler, Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, Xavier, App State, Loyola, Chicago, Mississippi State, and Texas A&M. So I think that's worth noting.
I think Auburn's clearly the better program of those. You can make an argument, I guess, for Xavier, but they don't have the championship pedigree over the last several years.
Yeah, it's a situation thing, though, right? It's like, does he – let's assume Janai Broome comes back.
Yep. Is
he cool being the backup to Janai for a year? And then, maybe you say, hey, you've got a real chance to be the guy at the 4 after this season? Or is it more of a – does he want to kind of be a plug-and-play guy right away? Because I don't know the situation at power forward at all these schools, but it just kind of depends. Once again, what's important to this guy? What's important to RJ Godfrey in his transfer portal recruitment?
He's not been a starter yet. He started one game in the last 2 years. So, and he's averaged, I think he got 6 points and 3.5 rebounds a game last year. So it sounds like a depth piece. It sounds like a guy who maybe wants to be developed a little more and may just be looking for greener pastures. I don't know. I don't know the guy, but looking at the numbers, that makes sense to me, a depth piece.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm with you. Of all those schools, like Auburn probably can offer the most as far as a program support goes, and definitely fan support. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, but RJ Godfrey, a name worth following. Brad, I think that about does it for today's show.
It does. Thanks, everybody. Excuse me. Thanks, everybody, for watching. I almost made it through a whole show.
Almost. So close.
All right. Remember, everyone has vices. Everybody has vices. Make sure Village Vice is one of yours.